Hello everyone, welcome back to Planet Coaster 2, or welcome back to Utopia World. And in today's episode I'm going to be jumping on the bandwagon and diving straight into the new Western pieces, or rather the pieces that have been ported over from Planet Coaster 1 with the launch of release 3.0. So obviously this release dropped a couple of days ago, and it's given me a bit of a chance to play about and build this Western facade. I think I could be slightly excused for building a typical Western style theme, because that's what we're already doing in the park before the announcement of this pack being released, or rather this update being released. So we're just continuing really with this same area, and the idea here was to build a facade for a Western dark ride, which will come later on in the series. And really just have a play about with the pieces and see what we've got. So my thoughts on the pieces we've been given, they're very good. They're basically the same Western theme pieces that we had in Planet Coaster 1, but it seems like some of the textures have been improved, and yeah, they look quite a bit better in this game. Also some pieces that weren't recolorable before now are, and everything is scalable, so there's a lot more you can do with the same pieces. For now though, I'm just building a very typical Western facade, or set of Western facades. I didn't really know what to do to start with, so I just sort of started putting some stuff together to see what I could come up with. And I've actually forgotten what any of these pieces are like, because it's been that long since I played the original Planet Coaster game, and that long since I've built anything using those pieces. But obviously there's some pieces that are going to be very useful across all themes in the game, and one of them especially is the bracket pieces that you can see that I've used on this building. There's about 5 or 6 pieces, and they've always been really useful for domes and different structures and pretty much anything you can imagine, because they're such small pieces. You can do really good custom roofs with them and stuff like that. So yeah, they're going to be super helpful to build with going forward. Obviously we've got the wooden wall texture, there's also a brick one. Windows and doors is a big thing. Lots of Western windows and doors, but again they can be used for various different themes, because they're a little bit more generic than the doors that came with the Planet Coaster 2 base game. So I think that's really going to be a game changer. I do apologise, by the way, if my voice sounds a little bit nasally today. Unfortunately I've had a cold over the last few days, just recovering from it now. It wasn't a bad one or anything, but still a little bit blocked up. There's nothing I can really do about that. I want to get this recorded, so yeah, please bear with me with the sound of my voice here. So you can see I've put the first building in. Nothing too special about it really, I suppose. And then the second building is going to be a bit smaller, but just trying to vary up the pieces ever so slightly. Obviously using a green colour for the wooden walls, and then just popping in some different windows and stuff like that. And some of the buildings on this facade are going to be more detailed than others. This is one that's going to be less detailed and just more of a sit in the background type of building. Doesn't need to be too noticeable. It's just to make the whole composition sort of work out well together. And yeah, what else can I say about this really? It's kind of surreal to be playing with Planet Coaster 1 pieces in Planet Coaster 2. I don't know really how much Western I'm going to want to be doing before I get bored of the whole thing. But I'll certainly try and finish off this themed area. And yeah, I'm actually quite pleased with how some of the previous builds that I did in this area came together without any of these Western pieces. And I was looking at going back in and replacing, like we've got the wagon that I made custom, replacing it with the in-game one we've now got for the Western set. But I thought the one that I actually made custom looks pretty good. And just for the fact that I made it myself, I'm going to leave it in there. But we probably will be using the in-game one now, the new one we've got in other parts of this area, I guess. Got some really cool awnings as well. Again, they're pretty versatile. They can be used for various different themes. And this roof piece as well will be really useful. It's a tiled roof. I didn't actually think it's part of the Western theme in the original game. But they seem to have brought it over for us. So I'm not complaining at all. And yeah, it works quite well for this theme, but I imagine it'll work for other themes as well. And we've got obviously loads of different props and stuff. We've got some that are a little bit more steampunky as well, which would be cool. And I've noticed that some of them are now recolorable too, so that's something that definitely for like more sci-fi themes and stuff like that could probably work quite well, you know, like the steam pumps and stuff like that. So yeah, really good selection that we've now got in the game, and it's a lot of pieces that you kind of forget about when you haven't played with them for a while. Now moving on to the signature building, I guess, for this area. It's the silver. Did I call it the silver bullet or the silver dollar or something like that? But it's the tavern, and it has a nice sort of balcony type thing over the ground floor level. And then the custom windows, I think, look really good in this one. I was quite pleased with how they turned out, just using several different layers to give them a little bit more detail. And we've still got to bear in mind that we don't want to go crazy with the detail on this one, because we're bearing in mind the budget for the park. So, we're going to have one or two sort of standout buildings like this that are a little bit more fancy. But a lot of the facades and stuff have to be really quite basic, just so that we can suggest, this was put together with a low budget. Might be their most heavily themed area of the park, but a Western theme tends to be a cheaper one to build, so we're constantly sort of building with that in mind as much as possible, and I don't want to go too crazy with things. The same will apply when I go to build the dark ride itself. Obviously, I don't want something that's Disney level, I want something a little bit more budget, but I think the park really that I'm sort of taking the most inspiration from in the back of my mind for this area is probably Knott's Berry Farm and the Wild West area that they've got there, because they do have quite a lot of nice buildings like this. They've got a little western town there, but obviously they're not a huge budget park. So there's some parts of the park that's more of an amusement park feel. So I think that's a good one to sort of take inspiration from. A lot of the reference images and stuff that I'm using for help with this builder from Pinterest. This particular building actually was sort of ripped off a little model Wild West town. I'm not quite sure what it was from or anything like that, but it looks really cool. And yeah, I just thought we're going to make this little tavern. The fun thing about this is I build a sort of fake interior facade, because this is, I haven't really explained, but this part is all going to be part of the queue line for the dark ride. So guests are going to pass through this and see everything through the windows. So we've put the piano in there and the bar, and then there's just a few little props, and we're going to light it all up. So it's got some cool nighttime lighting as well. Got this really nice notice board piece, which I really like. End up putting like a drinks price on there, and there's a standing up board as well that you can do the same thing with. Obviously, now we've got the text piece, we can do more custom signage and stuff like that. Although I didn't actually bother with the notice board outside the front of the tavern, but we can always go back and add more things like that. Doing a bit of clutter now, putting in some crates and various other pieces. Some of these are just from the base game, not even from the Western pack, but they work well alongside the Western pieces. And then just having a play about with some of these fences, which I think look really cool, matching the colour obviously of the base piece we've got there. And then I'm just trying to make a sign for for the notice board out the front. and I do end up just recolouring it quite dark. It's actually quite hard to see. I probably need to go back and play about with that a bit more because it doesn't look great. But yeah, just trying to do some of that custom signage stuff, which works pretty well now. You can see I'm playing about a bit with the lighting. I wanted the lighting to be quite bright in there and have a bit of a glow to it, so I ended up using a furnace type piece and sinking it in rather than just ordinary lights. And then we get some lighting on the outside, which I kind of forgot to do up to this point in the build. So once these are on this building, I go back and just add some lighting onto other buildings in the park. Looks like I'm just using the area lighting actually for now, which I think works out fine. And yeah, you can see there's a lot more detail going into this Silver Barrel tavern. And then we want to sort out some of the roofing. So we've got obviously the new tiled roof pieces and stuff like that, but I wanted to keep it this corrugated roof texture, which I felt kind of fitted the theme quite well. I used it earlier in this area of the park, so I'm just copying that over. It's from the aquatic piece set, and it works fairly well. But we'll probably only have one layer of this, and then everything else will just be a plain concrete roof, I guess, and there'll be a big show building around the back, so we're still bearing in mind the realism of everything. This is just going to be a fake front facade. You can see as well that I've sort of laid out the whole design for the show building, or the facade of it anyway, just because I felt it'd be easier to work with sort of scale and everything like that if we had a backdrop there to start working from. And obviously it's a really easy thing to do, and it just sort of sets you up nicely for a build, so you know the sort of shaping and sizing of everything when you get started. Adding lots more clutter pieces in from the Western set. So we've got this really cool cart, which is going to end up having some other things on it at some point. Once I decide on the colour for that wall. But yeah, there's loads of stuff like the cow head and stuff like that work perfectly, you know, the bison type thing, that just work perfectly for this theme. All your staple Western pieces, really. This building was a bit of a struggle, to be honest, because of the height of it. I wanted it to be smaller than the pub, but the problem is with the new Western walls, we don't have the half walls and quarter wall pieces, so you can only use the pre-made doorway pieces if you want to sink your own windows in, which is obviously what I'm doing. So it made it a bit of a struggle. So my only sort of dislike here is that the windows are actually taller than the door, and it's kind of quite noticeable to me, but I couldn't really think how else to do it. My only thought would be if we cut a bit of the path away here and have some steps down to it, that might be something I go back into and do, and that might actually add a bit more depth as well. So yeah, that's something I might consider at some point. Now I'm loading up the cart with some hay bales and some sacks, and yeah, again, they're not from the Western set, but they work well with the theme as well. This wheel as well, we used it, I believe, on the front of the coaster station, but it looks like a wagon wheel. I think it's from the Norse, or the Viking pack, sorry. But yeah, it works perfectly for Western as well, in my opinion. So moving on to the last building that we're going to do in this facade today. And this is going to be the entrance for the actual ride. So I needed it to be a little bit more grand. To start with, I was thinking of using this plain wall colour, and then I decided we need a bit more variety, so I thought I was going to try and use the brick texture. You don't normally think of bricks in Western, but they can work, and yeah, I think we made them work quite well here. So just toning down the colour a bit, and allowing for a big doorway, so there's plenty of room for the guests to sort of walk in as I go to the indoor section of the queue, because we'll probably have the queue wrap back alongside the back end of these buildings, all covered up obviously inside before they actually get to the station and load onto the ride once we get to that point. So yeah, just for use the brick texture walls here and have perhaps some green trims was my idea. I also had a little play about with putting a stairs piece on or some steps rather, onto the entrance of the tavern, but I thought it didn't really work out. The colour was slightly off and it weren't recolorable, so I just didn't bother with that in the end. Using the pillars as trims, that's another piece actually that's really good that I haven't talked enough about in this build, and that is the western pillar. It's just basically a plain wood pillar, but you can use it for anything. This is such a useful piece. I mean, we had the one from the tropical pack in the game before. It's a lot bigger, you have to rescale it every time and you have to recolour it to get those flowers off it, which is fine and it's been working, but now just having this ordinary wooden pillar is going to be so helpful. It'll speed up any builds where you're building with wooden pieces a lot. So I came up with a name for the ride. It's going to be called Sheriff Showdown. Sort of named the ride before I built it, so I'm going to have to build it along that storyline of a Sheriff Showdown, I guess. I haven't really thought too much about the actual ride itself yet, but yeah, I thought it wouldn't really look complete if we didn't put a name on the sign before finishing this part of the build, so it might be that I go in and change it to something else later on, but I haven't really decided yet. Using some rope pieces then, and some various other pieces. There's a kind of cool hanging lamp that we've got there as well, and just trying to add a bit more clutter and make it all a little bit more interesting in this area. And then at some point I did decide that we need a window on the side of this building. I toyed with having a hanging sign on this building, but I thought it drew too much attention to what's meant to be more of a background building, so I ended up scrapping that idea and just leaving it. And then we go ahead and put a window on this piece, and obviously realising that the placement of it is just too random. It needs to be more central, so it ends up getting moved. And the good thing is with the brick pieces, we've got these brick pillars as well, so we can just cover it up using them rather than wall pieces, and that saves the sort of dilemma that we have with the wood pieces, that you're restricted to where you can put the windows. But yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of the build complete. What do I think of the pack? Yeah, I think it's great. I haven't noticed anything else in the update 3 yet, other than the western pieces, because I haven't really been looking for it. But I'm sure there are some other improvements to the game, along with a couple of new coasters. I believe we've got the Vacomber SLC, if you want to build a proper janky coaster. We've got that now, and some coaster trains that are more generic on the ones that were quite heavily themed before, so that would be quite useful. But yeah, I haven't really looked at any of that stuff yet. I'm just like new pieces or old new pieces, yay! But yeah, I really hope that bringing back this theme does encourage more people to get back into the game and give Planet Coaster 2 a new lease of life. Because I think everyone's been struggling with the game a little bit over the last few months. So yeah, this new content should really give it that boost that's sort of much needed, and we can enjoy what's to come going forward. I'm looking forward to the next theme we get already. I would put my house on that it would be a pirate set, but I reckon this is just pure speculation, but I predict that the next theme will come in May, perhaps, with April just being sort of an update with some bug fixes and some improvements to the game once again. There's also been a major improvement to the the water park side of things in the game, which I haven't touched upon at all yet. I haven't done any water park stuff in the game, but it's definitely something that I've got in mind. I really want to get started on a water park, but I might have to do it alongside this project because, I don't want to rush through this one just to get another one started. So yeah, watch this space. There might be a water park series coming up on the channel as well at some point. Just depends really if I get the time and motivation to get started on that. But yeah, in the next episode, hopefully we're going to be doing the dark ride. And again, we're doing a dark ride with a low budget in mind. So that's what's going to be my sort of motivation to thinking I can get it done fairly quickly rather than spending several months on it. Like I would do with a sort of highly immersive themed dark ride. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this one. There's some cinematics to enjoy at the end, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye.